Hey, welcome back to World Entertainment. And Chris Pine has done an interview with Esquire, obviously to promote Dungeons and Dragons, a movie that looks horrible. But Star Trek popped up. Most notably, the next Star Trek movie. You know, the one Paramount has announced like 5 times. J.J. Abrams announced. And then when the cast got asked, hey, so you're starting a new Star Trek movie, they're all like, what new Star Trek movie? So Pine spoke about being a part of Star Trek and the future of the next movie, and basically feels that the whole thing is cursed. He also kind of gets it. The idea of Star Trek trying to be this big Marvel-esque type property, something it never was and never will be. So there's a huge article on Esquire, and it's some of the most poncy crap you'll ever see. Here's a couple of images even from that interview, and just look at how poncy it is. But here's where they get into the Star Trek part, so we'll read this. So the most modern looking objects in the room are a couple Captain Kirk Funko Pop figures, positioned directly on a low shelf. You get two distinct feelings when you talk to Pine about Star Trek. The sense that he still feels real affection for his Starfleet crewmates and real humble gratitude for the experience, and also the sense that in Pine's life the franchise is a massive machine like the Enterprise itself that came around once and beamed him up and made him part of something bigger than himself, something that felt almost impossible to live up to in the moment, and then deposited him back into his working life with different prospects and different concerns, and that in the years since he last played the part in Star Trek Beyond, he'd maybe come to a peaceful place in terms of letting Kirk go. Pine's first Star Trek came out a year after the first Iron Man. Beyond was released in 2016, after Marvel's interlocking mega franchises had moved the goalposts for what constitutes a hit. Beyond's gross, nearly $344 million globally, on a budget of $180 million, was good money, but not Avengers good. I'm not sure Star Trek was ever built to do that kind of business, Pine says. I always thought, why aren't we just appealing to this really rabid fan group and making the movie for a good price and going on our merry way, instead of trying to compete with the Marvels of the world? Well, would you look at that, someone actually understood. Unfortunately, he didn't have the power to say, we shouldn't be doing this, we should be cutting the price. All the JJ movies were made for over 100 million. They all technically barely, if even, broke money. Beyond didn't break even, Beyond lost money. But he continued anyway. By the way, everything keeps getting compared to Marvel. So he continued. He'd like to span more years as Kirk, but wouldn't be surprised if Beyond was the end of it. After the last one came out and didn't do $1 billion that everybody wanted it to do. And then Anton Yelchin, who played Chekhov, passed away. I don't know. It just seemed. He pauses, looks out the window at the view Star Trek bought. So obviously the house they're in, he bought with the Star Trek money. But even there, Paramount and everyone involved, obviously behind the scenes, were expecting a Star Trek movie to make $1 billion at the box office. No Star Trek has ever even come close to making $1 billion. Especially with the money they were pumping in. And let's not forget that Paramount pushed so hard for Star Trek Beyond to be Guardians of the Galaxy. That was their demand. Make it Guardians of the Galaxy. And Simon Pegg, who was now moved into writing it, or co-writing it, was like, but it's Star Trek, it's not Marvel. We should make it a Star Trek movie. Do you realise the amount of scripts for not just the likes of Star Trek Beyond, but even for what they were hoping would be the next movie, were getting rejected because they were too Star Trek? Figure that one out. You're making Star Trek and they went, no, it's too Star Trek. Wow. But anyway, so he pauses and looks out the window. He doesn't finish the thought, but a few minutes later suggests that the franchise feels like it's cursed. It shouldn't be this hard to figure out how to do another Star Trek movie. Yet, it's taken 6 years. Pine and crew's return to the screen was announced in February 2022. Over a year ago. I think that was also the announcement that JJ said, like, oh yeah, the movie will be out in December. When I speak to producer JJ Abrams by phone, the search for a director is ongoing. Abrams is elliptical about the film, even by JJ Abrams standards. I will say it's the first time since the original reboot that we have a story that feels as compelling as the first one. Look, JJ, you just talk all the crap you want to talk. This movie's not happening. Star Trek Discovery has just been cancelled. Paramount are cutting a lot of costs and corners. So, Discovery's probably the first of many. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if season 2 of Strange New Worlds is the last and the cartoon ones are gone. Well, they might keep the cartoons because they're probably cheaper to make. But Paramount are cutting costs. There's no way, and it's not viable, for them to throw in another 150, 180, 200 million to make a Star Trek movie. And one of the reasons you didn't get a fourth in the JJ Trek movies is because of Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth. That's right, they were bringing Hemsworth back to do George Kirk again. And it was going to be yet another time travel story where Jim Kirk comes face to face with his father, George. And it was going to be Chris Hemsworth again. But their price that they were to earn was too high for the new people who took over Paramount. Chris Pine and Hemsworth had a contract that stated how much they were owed for the next movie. And the new people who took over Paramount walked in and went, yeah, we want to half that. We're cutting your wages. And Pine went simply, no, there's my contract that I signed and that Paramount Pictures signed stating this is what I earn. And they went, well, we're cutting it. And he went, well, I'm not doing it then. Chris Hemsworth had the same issue. They were trying to offer him less money and he had a contract that stated if he returned, it was to be this much. And then the rest of the cast wanted to up their prices, which always happens when you continue with people, particularly if those people go off and be in other successful franchises. Like Zoe Saldana went off and was in the Guardians and Marvel. So her credibility went up, especially then with Avatar as well, which, skyrocketed her name basically, because it's like, oh, it's the highest grossing movie of all time. But Paramount tried to renege on what the contract said, so they walked away. But then you keep getting these announcements. Look, the announcements are basically the hook in the water. They're throwing it in to see what the interest level is. And they're not getting any bites on that hook. Which is why when the cast get asked, the cast are like, I don't know anything about a new movie. I wasn't given a contract. I wasn't asked to return. Why are they talking about new movie? It's so stupid. And then, I'm not sure whether it was Pine or Esquire, but one of them continued saying that basically it's not unusual for the actors not to know what's going on. That there's caterers who've seen scripts before the actors. But Pine then elaborates that it's not a great working relationship. And I think he's trying to say that JJ keeps announcing things and telling people things, but doesn't actually speak with the actors. So, look, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone wants another Star Trek movie from J.J. Abrams' universe. Chris Pine was good in the role and stuff, but at the end of the day, the movies just didn't make money. They cost too much to make. Put it this way, Star Trek Beyond cost $280 million to make. Made $344 million globally. So it lost money. Star Trek First Contact only cost $45 million to make. Think of that. And Bill Shatner, if you get the chance to see him live, do it with that Ratakan tour. I did it. And he even explained one of the issues with motion picture compared to Ratakan was they tried to make it on a movie budget when they said, no, we need to make it on a TV budget. And that's what they did with Ratakan. And look at the success that was. So Chris Pine thinks it's cursed, and he's probably not wrong. It's probably not going to happen. And he's moved on anyway. Not to bigger and better things by the looks of it. And by Jesus, has he aged something terrible in the last couple of years. Like, wow. It's like young, boom, brick wall, old. I'm not saying he looks terrible. He just has aged something terrible. It's crazy. Anyway, with that, I'll leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one. Live long and prosper.